Was arrested for?
I don't remember the
So why
exact...
you bring it up then?
Well, you know what? Let's just say I brought up a wrong example because I don't have the context
Could it possibly
right
be
now.
because it's all a load of nonsense and free speech isn't under threat in the UK at all, which I think you've just demonstrated respectfully?
What happens when bold rhetoric meets one simple question? Before we get into it, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. In this clip, a former Trump advisor confidently defends her position until she's asked for just one clear example. Not a speech, not a theory, just one. And that's when everything unravels. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about J.D. Vance. He is in town, he's in Kent, I believe it is, at Chevening, the Grace and Favour mansion for the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, where he's spending a couple of days before holidaying in the Cotswolds with his family. He's had another dig about the lack of free speech, as he sees it, in the United Kingdom, saying he has raised concerns, and will continue to, that the West, including Britain, is censoring rather than engaging with different opinions. You might remember he's previously suggested that free speech is under threat in this country. What on earth is the bloke banging on about? Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes is a former consultant to Donald Trump's presidential transition team in 2016, former chair of Republicans Overseas UK. Jan, great to have you with us here on LBC. What's J.D. Vance talking about? He's got this bugbear, hasn't he? Got this chip on his shoulder about Britain having lost the right to free speech. What is he talking about? Morning.
Well, good morning. It's funny that you think that he's taking a dig. Do you not think that when an 82-year-old man is arrested for posting something on Facebook, that is not a form of censorship?
Well, it depends what he posts, doesn't it? Depends if it's legal.
Well,
what did that 82-year-old man post?
Well, let's back up a minute here. If we are starting to scrutinize everything that someone says, if we're arresting them because
hold on a
it
minute.
is hate speech.
What is the? You mentioned a specific case there. What is it this 82-year-old was arrested for?
Honestly, I can't remember, but what I do remember...
You're telling me that it's outrageous that an 82-year-old man was...
Back up a minute.
No, sorry, this is important, because you've just said this is an example of free speech under threat in the UK, but you can't tell me what he was arrested for.
I don't remember the
So why
exact...
you bring it up, then?
I brought it up as an example that if we are scrutinizing what an 82-year-old man posts on Facebook...
But you can't assess that without knowing what he said, can you?
Well, you know what? Let's just say I brought up a wrong example because I don't have the context of it.
Could it possibly be because it's all a load of nonsense and free speech isn't under threat in the UK at all, which I think you've just demonstrated respectfully?
You know what? I've been there I've lived in the UK for 24 years. And yes, I do believe that censorship, it started with political correctness.
Right.
And as political correctness moved from accusing people of microaggressions and then people getting triggered over what somebody said, it has been a form of putting a speech straitjacket on people.
So what can't you say in the UK right now without being arrested that you think people should have the right to say?
You know what? That's a very good question.
It is. Thank you.
It is. I can't answer that question, and I can't give you an example exactly. But see,
so
what I find interesting.
Sorry, Jane. You've given me an example of free speech being under threat. You can't tell me what the person said.
Well,
I've asked you for one single thing that you can't say in the UK without fear of being arrested, and you can't think of anything. It's because Britain still is a country, compared to the United States, by the way, where free speech absolutely exists and always will.
Well, we both see it differently then.
But you can't give me any single point of evidence whatsoever to back up your idea.
Why don't you give me an example of how free speech still exists and censorship is not there?
Because you don't get arrested by the police for saying anything that isn't incitement or hate speech in this country. People are free to express their opinions. People are free to give their views. We do not have a police state in this country, unlike, I might say, the way that the United States is going under Donald Trump.
Well, that's interesting because it's not going that way with Donald Trump. It was going that way, and it's now reversing itself.
Right. So banning journalists from the White House because you don't like what they've written, demanding the impeachment of judges because you don't like what they've ruled, sacking government officials because they've dared to criticise you at any point in recent years, defunding universities because they're not doing what you do, threatening law firms if they don't toe the party line, defunding media organisations that you think are against you, arresting students because of what they've written on social media, and ramping up checks of people entering the UK to check they haven't posted anything on Facebook that you don't like, doesn't amount to any sort of attack on free speech.
That's really twisting things without the specific
facts.
Examples. You're giving...
They're facts.
No, you're giving examples the same way I gave the example
But you
of
didn't give any examples, and I've just given you 10.
No, you've just given me a very biased perspective.
Bias is facts. All of those things have happened. Which of those haven't happened? Have journalists been banned from the White House under the Trump administration?
Have journalists been banned, or have they brought in alternative media that presents a different
I'm not talking about
angle?
Have journalists from organisations like the Associated Press been banned by the White House, yes or no?
Yes, they have.
Right. Have judges been threatened with impeachment because the White House doesn't like their rulings? Yes or no?
Let's not do it that way. Let's go back to that. And yes. Why were they? Why were they banned?
But so we accept, right, are we accepting that all the things I just suggested have happened?
If you don't let me finish, then we can't really have a conversation here because you've got a very biased perspective
I'm not
here,
biased at all.
very angle.
I'm giving you facts, and I'm just asking whether you recognise that those things are true.
No. You know what? It's so interesting. Did we not have a bunch of fake news here? And in the U.S., we did. And why? Why did we have fake news? Because it was biased and it was wrong. And so that is one of the reasons. You're listing 10 things and cutting me off. But then why was the Associated Press no longer welcome? Because they gave fake news that has been proven. But
Jen, you coming on the national radio station here on LBC and saying an 82-year-old man being arrested is an attack on free speech without having a clue what he's actually said is not fake news at all.
It's not. It's not that I haven't had a clue. I can't remember the specifics.
Right.
But the fact that.
But how can you know it's an attack on free speech if you can't remember what he'd actually said?
Well, it's very interesting because you started this off by saying J.D. Vance had a dig. And so we don't get to have an intelligent discussion about whether there really is censorship going on, if people are afraid to speak out.
But he has had a dig, and that's his own language. He said previously when he talked about the UK...
No, you called it a dig.
Well,
He made a statement. He made an observation.
His language previously, I need to beat up on the UK. So don't try and tell me that he's not having a dig when he himself has admitted that he, as he put it, needs to beat up on the UK. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much, Steve, for coming on to Jan Halper-Hayes.
Once again, the pattern is impossible to ignore. The moment she's challenged, the confidence disappears. The certainty fades. The argument just collapses. We're talking about someone who presents herself as highly credentialed, a former Trump advisor, a doctorate, a polished media presence. The kind of figure you'd expect to come armed with facts, examples, and airtight reasoning. But when she was asked to defend her claim with one clear, specific answer, there was nothing there. No supporting evidence, no concrete example, no structured defence. Just vague talking points that fell apart under even mild scrutiny. And that's what stood out most. She went on national UK radio, seemingly expecting to make a bold claim and move on without resistance. But instead, she encountered something rare in today's media environment. Basic pushback. Not hostility, not grandstanding. Just a simple, direct question asking her to clarify what she meant. And she couldn't do it. It reminded me of that earlier exchange involving J.D. Vance, the same dynamic where confident rhetoric runs headfirst into factual reality. Because if we're having an honest conversation about free speech concerns right now, the debate isn't as simple as some commentators make it sound. The journalist in this clip laid out a series of controversial actions attributed to Trump and his political movement. Actions critics argue raise serious free expression concerns, targeting political opponents through rhetoric, conflicts with media outlets, disputes involving universities and campus speech policies, tensions over federal communication guidelines, public pressure campaigns against institutions. These are serious topics. They deserve serious answers. So when Dr. Helps was asked a straightforward question, what exactly did J.D. Vance do to justify her claim? That was the moment to respond clearly and confidently. Instead, there was silence, deflection, no concrete answer. And that's why this exchange hit so hard. It wasn't dramatic shouting. It wasn't chaos. It was a simple test of whether the argument could withstand scrutiny. And it couldn't. That's the bigger issue here. When political defenders are put forward as experts, voters expect substance. They expect clarity. They expect preparation. If you're going to make strong claims about threats to free speech, you should be ready to back them up. But in this case, the foundation just wasn't there. Anyway, I want to know what you think. Was this a fair challenge? Did she get caught unprepared? Or was there something deeper going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do it. And if you found this breakdown helpful, give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.